Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We will get started in just a minute or two. We're going to give folks time to come into the room. So hang tight and we will get started in just a couple minutes. All right, we'll give everybody one more minute and then we will get started. All right, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Elena Carroll, and I am the Chief Growth Officer at Upswing. I am here today for our very last webinar of the spring 2026 semester. And today we're going to be talking about No Silver Bullets, Understanding Students with Intersecting Needs. We are so excited to have everyone here today, and I want to recognize that I know that this is such a busy time of the school year for everyone. So we appreciate your attention as well as your attendance today. So we always like to know where our audience is coming from. I actually saw one of our partners and admins, Robin, already posted in the chat and gave us a hello. So if you are able, please type into the chat where you are logging in from today. As I said, my name is Elena, and I am logging in from Raleigh, North Carolina. So just let us know where you are coming from. Oh, fantastic. It looks like we have lots of folks from all over the place, some neighbors in North Carolina. That's great. Okay. So, before we dig into today's webinar, I did want to remind everyone that the webinar recording will be sent out in 1 to 2 days via email. We'll also make sure to share a copy of the slides. And we want to make sure that today is as interactive as possible. So please make sure to add any questions in the Q&A, which is at the bottom of your screen, as we go along, and we'll try to answer them at the end of the webinar. I wanted to just briefly introduce Upswing to those of you who might be new to us today. If you are new to us, welcome. We're so happy you are here. Upswing actually started 13 years ago, and we just celebrated our anniversary last month where we became a teenager, which is very exciting. Our CEO and co founder, Melvin Hines, began Upswing with one mission. He wanted to help more non traditional and historically marginalized students graduate college. And for the past 13 years, we've been doing just that. We work with community colleges, four-year institutions, HBCUs, HSIs, and nonprofit organizations to provide 24/7 student support through online tutoring, advising, mental health, basic needs, and ANA, our SMS retention solution. So, if you've joined us for the last two webinars this spring, you have seen the power of ANA through our data insights. You've also learned the importance of basic needs support, financial support, mental health support, and more. ANA, our SMS retention solution, helps students succeed by being there when they need it the most, sending them reminders, encouragement, and answering questions. And ANA, most importantly, helps keep students engaged, enrolled, and on their path to graduation. So, today we're going to go even deeper into the needs of students. We're going to discuss a few things. We're going to talk about what does intersecting needs actually mean for today's students? Why is it no longer effective to view these needs in isolation? How can we better predict and support these needs in shrinking budgets among varying priorities? And instead of just talking to you, we want to talk with you. So we're going to actually split up this webinar into two different parts. The first is going to be an interactive workshop where we're going to dig into three different student personas. We're going to use the chat to have an interactive conversation. Then we're going to bring up three administrators from three of Upswing's current partner institutions to talk about their experiences with intersecting student needs. So I know we're in a webinar and it's hard for us to be interactive together being remote, but we're going to try our best. If you all can, again, I see the chat going, so everybody has hopefully found that chat box. Get ready to type in there, and to also, again, if you have any questions throughout our time together, add them in the Q&A. I also wanted to introduce my co-presenter, Zoe, who will be leading us through the workshop portion. So Zoe is a product operations specialist at Upswing. But if you work with Upswing and you also utilize Anna, your students would actually know Zoe as Anna. Zoe works behind the scenes and she responds to student questions as Anna. So she's interacting with hundreds of thousands of students each year and answering their questions for things like, hey, Anna, how do I register for classes this coming semester? Or, hey, Anna, when is the deadline for FAFSA? Or, hey, Anna, can you tell me a joke today? I'm feeling a little down. That is Zoe and her team. They're all the time supporting students whenever they need it. So I'm very excited to actually turn it over to Zoe as we start the workshop section. So I'll go ahead and I'll go to the next slide and then hand it over to Zoe.
Thank you. So we're actually going to start with a poll. Let me launch that really quick. I'd like everybody to think about this question. So which of these do you think most often impacts your students' ability to stay enrolled at your school? Got financial challenges like paying for tuition and bills, having access to basic needs, work and time constraints, family or other caregiving responsibilities, mental health challenges and stress, or maybe you're not sure. Looks like people are finding the poll. Cool. We'll give another couple minutes or a couple seconds. So far, yeah, a lot of financial challenges. I also see mental health and stress coming up quite a bit. Everybody, last chance. Okay, yeah. Top answer, financial challenges. We'll do. Thank you. Everybody can see the results, I think. So let's take a look at the data, if you would mind going to the next slide, Elena. So the thing that we've been seeing, what we've found is that it's often not just a single barrier for students, that students will have these intersecting needs, and when those go unmet, it can get really overwhelming. It can compound on each other and get really overwhelming quickly. So what we're going to go over basically is why the question isn't what's the main issue, but rather how did these issues come together? How do they intersect with each other? So now we can go to the student personas. Good, thank you. So when we look at, we've got Jasmine, who has a lot going on. I would love to get everybody to look at her profile, and look at the challenges that Jasmine is facing. What might those challenges be, and how is that compounded by aspects of her background or her context as a student here? And if you could leave your answers in the chat for everybody to see, that would be amazing. So the question is, what is she dealing with? What are her challenges? And then what aspects of her background might be compounding those? Yeah, thank you, Robin. Time constraints. She's got a busy life, work, family, and school, for sure. She might be lacking support at home. Absolutely. hmm And since she's embarrassed, yes, she feels pressure to succeed, but also embarrassed at the same time, which can make things even more difficult than just needing that, having that pressure to succeed anyway. I like this answer too, navigating the US higher education system on her own, her time limits, and the lack of access to resources and guidance. Yes, absolutely. Overload. The misconception about tutoring. Yeah. So everybody's like locking onto some interesting, unique issues that she's dealing with. So then the next question would be, if this was your student, how would you help her out? What's the first thing you would do to prioritize? Or what's the first thing you would prioritize for helping her? Yeah, thanks, Robin, for the shout out. She's not using Upswing. Building a weekly schedule. Yeah, sitting down and really organizing her time well could be huge for sure. And just being encouraging. That's actually something that a lot of students ask Anna for. Uh, they really like feeling like somebody's in their corner and just knows that they can do it, and telling them like, you got this. Yeah, some tutorial support, something that works with their schedule, connecting her to other students, making sure her class schedule works. Yes. And I love how maybe these options, or like your answers, would be different depending on what sort of resources you have at your institution, right? So there's not really a one right answer here. Refer to student resources for time management, personalized extensions. Yes. Telling her, yes, I think absolutely letting her know her situation is the majority of online students is also really interesting. I think that that could be huge, just knowing that she's not the only one in here. Yeah, thank you, everybody. Um, we can move on to maybe another example now. So now we have Danielle. The first question is going to be the same. Danielle's got even more going on. So What aspects of, or rather, what challenges is Danielle juggling, and what aspects of her background and her context as a student might be compounding those challenges? Danielle's situation is very complicated. Childcare needs, yes. Hmm. Yeah, if there's something in the community or on campus that could help her with childcare, that could be a huge relief very like quickly. Oh, I love how many answers everybody has. Time management is going to be huge for Danielle. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, good point. Having a family or somebody there to support her. Financial constraints, looking for scholarships. Yes, I agree with that too. Mm-hmm. Robin brings up a good point about study habits. Is she studying as efficiently as she could be? Maybe she's taking a lot of time. Um, and she could bring that down a little bit more. Yeah, so we're kind of moving into the next question, which is going to be again, if you were going to be helping Danielle, where's the first thing that you would prioritize helping her out? Also, a good point, learning how to become a student again. Yes, there's a lot that goes into just how to school that a lot of people can struggle with, and we might not realize. Looking into the Title IX office, see if there might be ways to assist here. Tutoring services and time management again. If she's concerned about going to the learning center because she's not always able to find childcare options and she doesn't want to be judged for bringing her kids. So there's a couple different ways to work around that, right? Study smarter. Yeah. Thank you, Robin. Upswing can help. Let her talk about stress issues and counseling services. Yeah. If we can find time for to get Danielle to a counselor, that could be really helpful too, right? Developing a support plan. Just having the plan can already be really helpful. I sometimes people just feel like they're floating. Yeah, finding the time to get her the stuff that she needs is a big priority. Okay, cool. Elena, if we're good on time, we can go to the next one. Alrighty. So here's our last student. We've got Alex. A different set of challenges entirely from the first two, I think. So when you look at his profile, what challenges is he dealing with, and how might his background or his context be compounding that or making that even worse? Procrastination could definitely be a challenge. I agree. Feeling isolated. Yeah. Sometimes those things are related, right? Some people need to be in a more social environment to study and get stuff done. Limited access to resources and other student groups. Yeah. Upswing could 100% help with him too. I agree. It would certainly help him feel more connected to learning services, learning support services. It seems like he also has like some time management issues, right? Or maybe it's more just the signal. He often misses out on synchronous tutoring or office hours because of a poor internet. Um, so he might need also maybe community connections. Yeah. Okay, so then what's the first thing? Oh, here, sorry. Find a club, maybe something online. See if there's a peer mentor that can assist. Yeah, that's a great idea. I love that. Online clubs and events. Yes. So what's the first thing that we would do to help out Alex? Or what's the first thing you'd be able to do at your institution to help out the student? Figuring out his priorities. He does balance school with his freelance tech job online. Just reaching out personally and asking how to help him. Yeah, he seems like he's really disconnected. Maybe he knows what he needs. Connecting with his advisor. Yes. Make sure he's using his time wisely. Yeah, maybe setting him up with something at the local library. Or if he is able to get to a campus library, if it's farther, if it's closer away, possibly, closer to him, possibly. I like this answer too. Unstable internet will be a stumbling block for a remote learner, considering backup plans. Yes. And finding ways to connect him with his instructor. Yeah, I think all of these are really good, helping him troubleshoot how to be a student in a remote environment where the stable connection is kind of a problem. But there's different options in his community that he can definitely use. Supplemental instructions at his school for online learners. Yeah. Possibly creating resources to help out with these kinds of things, and the with all the time that administrators have. Yeah, thank you everybody for being such good sports. I really appreciate it. Good answers. Um, so I'll just bring us back more directly to Anna here. These were all examples that we were going over. Like these personas were created for the purposes of this presentation. But I do want to, highlight here that these are real conversations that we do have with students, that I have with students. We have somebody working full time and struggling with balancing that with their classes. So setting up exactly like everybody said, some time management resources can be really helpful. And it's also interesting. We have like this other student who might need emergency money, which would indicate, of course, the financial challenges that we were talking about earlier in the poll. But there's layers to that too, because this person also might have needed, it seems like they also needed some help with housing. So this could be two different compounding, intersecting needs. It can make student life really, really tough. And we do our best with Anna to try to help out students with those things. And we have conversations like this pretty much every week. Um, Thank you. Thanks for all your great answers. I'll hand it back to Elena.
Great. Thank you, Zoe. And again, I just, even though these are personas, like I want to just give everybody a shout out in the audience. I think that you all have the hardest jobs in the world trying to figure out how to help students similar to the ones that we saw there today. And every institution is different. And it's also, just really challenging to try to find the right solution when they may have all of these different needs coming up at once. So just big shout out to everybody who participated as well as the work that you all do every single day. We greatly appreciate it. But as Zoe said, we are now going to move into our panel discussion, which we are really excited for. So I'm going to ask our panelists to actually turn their cameras on, and we will have everybody come up, and we're going to actually begin with a round of introductions by our panelists. And what we would like to do is just ask each of you to introduce yourself. You can tell the audience your name as well as what institution you work at and your role there. So if it's okay, I'll just kind of start with who I see at the top of my screen, and we'll start actually with Mr. Beasley. So go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Antoine Beasley. I'm a academic coach at University of District of Columbia in Washington, D.C. We have three different types of caseloads that we actually work with. We have Black males, we have I'm sorry, transfers, as well as anything that outside of the Black males. I particularly work with all Black males per se, and that's my caseload. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Beasley. We'll just go down the line here to Dr. Resendez.
Hey everyone, I'm Jose Resendez, and I serve as the Executive Dean for Accelerated Learning Support here at Austin Community College. So in my role, which is fairly new, I started in October of last year. I'm overseeing a newly unified department that we consolidated all of our academic support systems into one unified leadership structure. And so we did that because we realized that in order to really holistically support some of the complex intersecting needs of our students, we had to actively and intentionally dismantle some of our own departmental silos and kind of get out of our own way in order to love our students to success. So I'm really excited and thrilled to be part of this conversation today, and I want to extend a huge thank you to Upswing for hosting us and for the invitation to join you today.
Thank you, and thank you for being here. The next person is Mr. Wyndham.
Hey everyone, I'm Bryant Wyndham, the coordinator for academic support and tutoring at McLennan Community College, just north from ACC. So we run our direct tutoring services, supplemental instruction, as well as some odds and ends, makerspace, and other study aids. Primarily, my role is making sure that our services are available to students, and Upswing's been a huge tool in helping that, so I'm happy and appreciative to be here.
Thank you. Well, we're going to kick it off, and the plan again for the panel, just so our audience is aware, is we're going to ask everybody some questions. We're going to give all of our panelists an opportunity to respond to it. If at any point you have any questions for our panelists, please post them in the Q&A. We are going to leave about 10 minutes at the end of our discussion to go to your questions and answer them. So feel free to pop them in there if you do have any. I'm going to begin actually with a question, again, just kind of kicking us off. So, from your perspective, what are the most common combinations of student needs you're seeing? So, not just individual challenges, but needs that tend to show up together. I'm going to start at the bottom of the list. We'll actually start with Mr. Wyndham, and then we'll go to Dr. Resendez, and then Mr. Beasley.
I would say we have a combination of kind of the busy life factor. I lump it into scheduling, but it's that combination of demands from family to putting food on the table. And this might be a bit of a hot take, but information literacy. I think that's really kind of a unified skill that's missing, especially with our up and coming students, that we have to remember to train them on for them to see success and even access the resources we have.
Great, thank you. Dr. Resendez?
Thank you for that question. So at ACC, we rarely see a student that presents with just an academic need. Some of the most common intersections that we're seeing is this triangle of you have academic underpreparedness, you have a financial or basic needs insecurity, and then you have a lack of institutional belonging. So when we kind of combine those things, it can lead to some difficult struggles for the students. And so our data is showing that within our service area, 6 out of 10 of our students are low income, and about 57% of them would struggle to find $500 during an emergency. So when a student comes into one of our physical spaces or they log into Upswing because they're failing a college algebra course, for example, we know that that root cause is frequently tied to those financial stressors that limit their study time, or a feeling that they just don't belong in college. And so we have to treat that immediate academic symptom to make sure that they are doing well in their class. But more importantly, we have to be able to guide them to our basic needs support systems. So that's essentially Maslow's hierarchy applied to a higher ed setting. We can't expect the students to self-actualize in the classroom if that foundational base of their needs pyramid, the food, the housing, the financial insecurity, if that's fractured, then it makes it really difficult if all we're doing is treating the academic symptoms.
Absolutely. Mr. Beasley?
And I can piggyback off that. The three, such as time management, stress, financial stress, as well as academic preparedness, can all interact with each other. So addressing just one is very limited. So I would definitely, in our case, all of that balls around towards mental health concerns as well. We want to reduce that to our maximum degree. So we have different academic preparedness actions to help reduce that stress, such as a first year student. We know in our case, UDC has a very large range when it comes to our students' age population. So therefore, we try to, such as the first year students that's been out of school for some amount of time, our portal navigation workshops are more directed to them per se to get them back on speed with just not the information they would take into the classroom, but the platforms that they actually will experience. So we try to hone in on that before the school year. So orientation time period is very big to getting them back up to speed for the actually freshman year experience, I would say.
Thank you, guys. I was gonna move into the next question, which is actually you started to address it, Mr. Beasley. So maybe I'll go to you first for this one, which was how do the combinations of needs vary across these different student populations you serve? So maybe depending on the age of the student, their part-time versus full-time, maybe their first gen, other demographics here. How do they vary across those populations?
Yes. According to us in our data, we find that adult learners and part-time students actually carry a heavier balance of work financial responsibilities. So we try to definitely partner with companies like Upswing to provide those wonderful services, such as we know definitely our working class individuals may not have the traditional time periods for studying time. So therefore, Upswing definitely has a large tick from UDC when it comes to after hours, such as having a 5 to 7 year old, which example earlier in one of your cases. Yes, getting out and getting prepared for a tutoring session after 9 or 10 o'clock would be realistic for that person. So we just try to make sure we're proactive in doing that as well. So I spoke about our workshops. So we try to be proactive with trying to identify areas of struggle for our potential students. So I spoke to the portal navigation. We also have something called financial frenzy when we have a bank rep comes in and talk to our students about banking as well as planning to pay back these students' loans once you graduate. So we have conversations about that and financial aid. It's another time period around midterms that we have a workshop called Health and Resiliency. So we want to dive into the mental health aspect when it's actually preparing our students. So we try to think of areas to help reduce the stress. So we have a dietitianist from one of the university to talk about proper eating habits. We have a physical trainer come in and tell and educate students about the importance of 15 to 20-minute workout sessions as well, how that can reduce stress as well. And one of the things that I introduced this year was the pre-career fair workshop. So we had the university career fair maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I introduced that to get our students ready for the university career fair. We had a resume workshop, cover letter. We talked about elevator pitches. And I did that in forms of hoping to collaborate with other departments. All right. I'm sure we'll get into that as well with a later question. So I'll stop right there.
No, thank you. That was great. I saw Dr. Resendez, you were nodding your head a lot along the time during that. So same question. How do those combinations of needs vary across the student populations that you're working with?
Yeah, so we do see a lot of what Antoine was mentioning, and I'll give two specific examples that hopefully will add to that conversation. One of them is our parenting students. So we see that a massive intersection between caregiving and the modality of course that they're taking. So for example, our data shows that a significantly higher proportion of mothers take all of their classes online compared to fathers. And so their need is much more of that flexibility combined with asynchronous support. So Upswing is their biggest friend when it comes to that particular student demographic. Um, and then another interesting example was our dual credit and early college high school students. You would assume that because they're relatively on the younger side and life only gets more complicated the older you get, that we were expecting to see, oh, it's just basically academics that might be their biggest concern. But we actually saw, like when we surveyed early college high school students, that they're actually much more likely to seek out basic needs assistance or mental health services compared to non-early college high school students. So that was a surprise for me anyways. And so at the same time, because like dual credit students are not in our campuses, they also don't feel that connection to our college community. So just we do see kind of these different pockets of needs, and so we just have to be mindful of how we are addressing them.
Yeah, thank you. And Mr. Wyndham?
Yeah, I would say we see that combination need that really just conflates and takes over the time. So whether it's the non-traditional students who are balancing work and family, or some of our dual credit students looking toward already their transfer and those extracurriculars. But where I where I really find the intersection interesting with, as I mentioned, the information literacy is we have so many resources, and I think everyone here who's tried to get students to use their resources would agree. It's just difficult to compile it in a way that makes it easy for them to find. And some of that is either coming to school without having been taught the tools of searching, or it's maybe having been outside of an academic environment long enough that you have to relearn not just the jargon, but how things work in college. So I think it really combines to make a, I won't call it an insurmountable issue, but it makes a big hill for them to climb. And that's really something we see across the demographics. First gen students, of course, have an extra layer of complexity if they don't have someone who's been through this process before. And that's where I think our services are especially important.
Great. Thank you so much. Um, I think kind of hitting on maybe some hidden things that we often miss, kind of reflecting upon what institutions often miss whenever they think about student needs. The question is where do you think institutions tend to underestimate or miss student needs, especially when students are experiencing multiple challenges at once? So I'm actually we'll stick with Mr. Wyndham for this. What are your thoughts on this?
I think we underestimate the level of investment it takes for a student to come here, both, I sound like a broken record, but fiscally, temporally. College, for at least most of our students, when things get difficult, is seen as the extra, and so it's the thing that can get cut. You can't just cut your family, you can't cut out eating or a job. And so I think we underestimate, one, the load that they're under, but two, how much of a commitment it is for them to show up to begin with, and how close so many of them are to just saying, I just can't do this right now. And so I think it takes especially caring attitude to work with them and make sure that they've got that mentality that this is important and we are here to help you. Come to one of us so we can find you those resources.
Yeah. Dr. Resendez, what are your thoughts here on this question?
Um, I have two, and one of them might be a little triggering, but I think on the academic side, I think we really do underestimate the effect of early academic struggles. So we ran an unsuccessful course analysis, and so that showed us that those first 15 credit hours are super important. So if a student is dealing with an intersecting life challenge and withdraws or fails from an early course, the likelihood of them reaching completion plummets by a lot. Um, the other part of this, and I think this is the more important part, is that institutions kind of miss those needs by forcing students to navigate complex org charts and bureaucracies. As institutional, as academics, we like bureaucracy. We like our own little pockets of things. And so, but a student shouldn't have to figure out that, one department handles one type of support and the other department handles another one. And a completely different office is in charge of basic needs. And so we really kind of create our own blind spots because of our institutional bureaucracies. And so that's something that we've been trying to eliminate here at ACC.
That's such an important point. Mr. Beasley, what are your thoughts?
On this, I want to agree with both gentlemen earlier as well. But where most institutions fall short, I would see is how interconnected student challenges are to each other, such as how when one student is struggling in a class per se, that may not be just a reflection on the academics portion. It may be they may have a food insecurity, they may have a mental health or may be a housing insecurity as well. So I say that because collaboration I found out to be very big when it comes to the resources and making sure, like Brian said earlier, that the students actually feel comfortable coming to us in those times of needs as well. Such as if a student is struggling, it may not be just the academics. They may not be able to just submit the work on time. So if an individual has an IEP, per se, maybe that would be forward to the right department. That way, the extended time period can be grasped for that young person as well. One thing I'm very big on in my caseload, and I think the universities underestimate the importance of clubs and organizations, to be honest. And I very find out through conversations and the data per se that when students are engaged in clubs and organizations, they're pretty much more engaged with just the university in a whole, but they're engaged in their academics as well. And like I said, that would increase the success of that individual student.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then I think we'll keep going in a circle. We'll get back to Mr. Wyndham. Um, how has your approach to supporting students changed and evolved as you started to see more of these needs intersecting?
This seems really minor, but a shift from a marketing style of communication to a very didactic, plain language style. When I started here, my department was called the Center for Academic Excellence, which doesn't really mean anything to anyone. And so now we are the Academic Support and Tutoring Department. And so we've really, and not just in name there, but with what we do, we try and make sure the plain language comes first so that students don't have to know and navigate that bureaucracy that Dr. Ascendez was mentioning, because it's very easy for us to think something is cool from the inside and forget what it would look like if it weren't our idea. And so, between the multiple one-stop shops we've had for all the different things, we've really started trying to push that, just call it what it is. You are admissions, this is the library, things of that nature. And we've seen students have appreciated that. They don't have to guess as much or get the decision fatigue or feel passed around.
Yeah, I totally agree. That comes up with Anna a lot, actually, figuring out how to word things correctly, 100%. Um, I'll go back to you, Dr. Resendez. How's your approach evolved?
I think Bryant is very much in tune with what we're trying to do at ACC as well. I think was that biggest evolution for us was just recognizing that those fragmented departments and just like in thing people operating independently of each other without that collective vision really hurts our students. So recently we underwent a major realignment within our student affairs division, and then the academic division is about to undergo their realignment as well. And so as I mentioned during my intro, we completely merged our academic support systems into a unified department. Previously, we had two major departments with different leadership, different metrics, different goals, operating and providing academic support. And that made it really difficult to navigate because ultimately our students didn't care. They just wanted help. And so while we were in competition with each other for resources, for student engagement and all of these things, our students really just wanted help. And so now we've kind of consolidated under one collective leadership structure with one collective vision. And so the evolution was from offering those like isolated services to having a more comprehensive academic support environment. And we're still very much going through our realignment phase. And there's a I would love it if we could get to yes, like renaming and just calling it what it is. I really love that idea because that's really what the students care about.
For sure. Yeah, Dr. Mr. Beasley.
Yeah, both gentlemen are right on point. Definitely, just creating a more holistic and a proactive approach, to be honest. I try to be very open and intentional with my open-end questions during my one-on-one meetings with my students. That way I can make the proper referral to the individual resources, I would say, and then follow up on those consistently, definitely to build that trust with that individual student and all my students, to be honest. We are moving towards being a Gallup Strength university. So with that in mind, we're definitely focusing on the strengths as well as not forgetting those that fall behind as well as potential targets for improvement as well. Um, Once again, I'm very big on collaboration within each department. So I would definitely end with saying that though.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to just remind the audience if anybody has any questions for our panelists or for Zoe or myself, please feel free to add them in the Q&A. Otherwise, we're going to kind of keep going. We have a whole list of questions we could ask our panelists today, but Since we're coming up towards the end, I want to maybe just end with this question. And then again, if we get any questions from the audience, we can take them. But for institutions that are just starting to think about this, or maybe starting to rethink it, because, again, as we're all starting to navigate, this academic year, this new world that we're in, I think it's always important to keep questioning and keep asking ourselves how we can do things better. What's one very practical step that institutions or the folks in our audience can do to, first of all, better understand intersecting needs, and then secondly, to better support students with intersecting needs? And I think we'll start actually with Mr. Beasley since he ended us the last time.
Um, Definitely creating intentional check-in systems is something I would say. Definitely earlier. That's something our university changed their model when it comes to academic coaching. Being proactive, in that very intentional, such as early alerts, midterm alerts, having those earlier conversations early in the semester. That way, if assistance can be provided from the university perspective, we can definitely make that. So just being proactive with the early alerts and midterms, I would say, with us.
Wonderful. Let's go to Dr. Resendez.
I think operationally, it's really important or it's not possible to kind of support these complicated intersecting student needs if we're not working or if we are working towards different metrics. So it really takes that unified institutional goal. So if you're just starting off with this work, it's really what unified goal are you as an institution rallying behind? And so, for example, at ACC, we realized that we needed a singular focal point, which we call our North Star, and that North Star is to achieve a 70% completion rate by 2030. And so when we're all kind of operating from that blueprint, it makes it that much easier to have collaboration, and it kind of eliminates those tensions or frictions because we're all trying to meet that one specific goal, in whichever way that we operate independently, but we work at it collectively. So I think that that's a really important first step.
Thank you. Mr. Wyndham?
I'm going to pull two words, collaboration that Mr. Beasley's mentioned several times, and friction that Dr. Resendez just mentioned. I think inventorying what each department does and the needs that they hear is just so important. Getting the different support departments around a table together in a spirit of collaboration instead of competition to figure out what they're hearing and how things can be adjusted college-wide for that is helpful. Because I think we often, as different departments, accidentally duplicate effort and unintentionally compete with one another because let's be honest, we're all in higher ed, budgets are not unlimited, but we all want our students to succeed. And I think that we can unintentionally confuse them about where to go when we don't sit down and actually look at what each other does and how to work better together. I think that eliminates a lot of friction.
That's actually a perfect segue because we did get a question from our audience, and it's for you, Mr. Wyndham. So, um, Ms. Novak asked, our center has also considered changing the name to better reflect our role for the student. One drawback we have been presented with is having to change all forms, LMS sections, college handbooks, etc., to reflect the change. Did you have any roadblocks with this?
Always and forever. But we're fairly lucky in that our Center for Teaching and Learning is a good partner, and they control a lot of the boilerplate stuff in our LMS. And so what we mostly face is the infinite amount of cache pages and dead links in the website. So that is an honest roadblock. but figuring out who in our institution to talk to kind of group those things and getting leadership support that, hey, this is a student-driven decision really helped to overcome that.
That's great. I guess this is final call for any questions, but also just any final thoughts from our panelists here that you'd like to share. It looks like we did get a question. Let me go ahead and answer. Oh, Robin said thank you. Okay. Any final thoughts from any of our panelists?
More than anything, just a sense of gratitude to be here. I mentioned
Oh,
earlier,
thank you.
Upswing's been a great partner, and Dr. Ascendez, Mr. Beasley, it's been great to hear y'all's insights as well. Don't be surprised if you see an email in your inbox later.
Wonderful.
Not a problem. Thank you all for having us as well.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate your time. And again, we want to recognize everybody is so busy this time of year. So we really appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen just one last time. I wanted to again just thank you all for joining us. One last time want to share our 2025 ANA Insights report. If you haven't had a chance to read this, we encourage you to download it, take a look at it. For those of you that are new to Upswing and you'd like to learn more about ANA, you can also schedule a call with us. We'd love to talk to you and tell you more about ANA as well as what we do and hear about your goals and needs. So thank you for joining us today. Big thank you to our panelists and our partners here with us and out in the audience. We will send out the recording via email in a couple of days. We'll also make sure to include a copy of the slides. If you have any questions at all after the webinar, don't hesitate to reach out to us via email. You can reach us at retention@upswing.io. But take care, have a wonderful day, a wonderful end to the spring semester, and we look forward to being back again in June for our annual conference with everybody. It's available on our website to register for. We hope that everybody will join us then. And until then, we'll see you later. Take care.